We are speaking with Elizabeth Larkam. She is a member of the Balanced Body faculty, and she is here to speak with us today about a very special population that she's been working with. Welcome, Elizabeth.
Thank you so much.
So I want to know, what is the population? What makes them different from your regular Pilates client?
It's anyone who has some really severe impediment to motor control. It may be that they have a prosthetic limb, maybe 2 prosthetic legs or 1. It may be they have a vestibular disorder that affects their balance. It could even be that someone has had a traumatic brain injury that reduces their ability to maybe to know where they are in space, to be comfortable of knowing where their body parts are in space. It could be any number of those things.
And how did you come to work with this population?
You know, it's often said that Pilates instructors are teaching their clients. Oftentimes in my life, the other way is true, meaning that I learn from my clients. My clients are teaching me. And in 2006, I was approached by a young mother who had a prosthetic right leg. She had fallen several stories in an elevator shaft. The elevator malfunctioned, and a number of musculoskeletal injuries. She came to me 7 years after her injury and 2 months after the birth of her first child. So she and I started working together in that complex situation to come up with movement sequences in the Pilates environment that would enable her to walk with more comfort and more ease.
And do you feel that the Pilates environment was an essential part of that, or could it have been some other form? Do you know what I'm saying?
I know exactly what you're saying. And in my experience, the Pilates environment is superb for customizing movement sequences that are ideal for each unique client's needs.
And I think that the key word that I caught onto there was customizing. So not only can you customize a specific exercise, but are you able to key into, you mentioned vestibular. I don't know that this client of yours has vestibular pathology going on, but what is it specific about her that you're applying from the Pilates work?
In her case, she had one above knee prosthetic limb, and the other foot was a source of constant pain because of the crush injuries from her fall. So what leg are you going to stand on? The one that's not so stable, that has muscular atrophy at the hip for lateral pelvic stabilizers, or the foot that's constantly hurting? So not knowing where to stand and where to comfortably bear weight and needing to carry her child, it was so important to organize her thoracic area, to organize her spine, to make the most efficient transfer of weight possible, to make every time her foot takes a step so that she can be confident that she has a leg to stand on.
Now, this was a traumatic injury that she suffered.
That's correct.
Most people don't fall down an elevator shaft. I mean, this is so traumatic, fortunately.
Yes.
But you've also been working with people with equally traumatic injuries. Can you give us a little information about those clients?
Yes, by all means. It was my work with the client I'm just describing to you that prepared me for understanding how to sequence material in the Pilates environment for someone who has a prosthetic limb. You never know when the information you're gathering will come in useful. Not only for that client, but listen to this. In 2008, I was invited by Michael Podlensky at the U.S. Naval Hospital in San Diego to mentor him as he started a Pilates program to serve the soldiers coming back from Afghanistan. These were soldiers with polytrauma injuries. Polytrauma is a term that's coined by the military medicine to refer to a complex series of injuries that may include musculoskeletal injuries, one or several limb amputations, vestibular difficulties, traumatic brain injury, the whole constellation. And it's for these people that we find the Pilates environment is ideal, because it enables us to customize movement environments to find just the right vector of force.
And when you talk about vector of force and the sequencing with a polytrauma client,
Yes.
you're working with someone who, like you said, it's not purely musculoskeletal. And especially when you mention traumatic brain injury, do you find that you're working in having to educate yourself or the client, how, like trying to get them to navigate through this?
Absolutely.
It's a lot of like talk education. I'm not referring to therapy, but how do you manage, how do you speak to someone with a traumatic brain injury to move them through this work?
Right. It's a creative process and always a collaboration. Soon I'll speak about a young client, a 12-year-old client I have with a traumatic brain injury as well. But to get back to the Polytrauma group at the U.S. Naval Hospital, where I was mentoring Michael Podlensky and his physical therapy colleagues, each client is unique. So I look at the client and determine what movements are possible for them now. It may be lying on their back, moving their rib cage in one direction and their pelvis in the other. That's where we start. And I communicate with them, of course, by voice, as you and I are speaking, with my hands, and say, move your lung in the direction of this hand. Move your hip in the direction of this hand. And all the time that this is going on, I'm clarifying my intention. So because of the mirror neurons that are so present with everybody when we communicate, it's my intention to move my ribs a little bit that way, move my hips a little bit that way, in order to give them additional information that may not be so cognitive, but is felt.
And you mentioned that you're working with a 12-year-old with a traumatic brain injury?
Yes.
How's he doing?
Yes. Such a pleasure. And again, each client teaches me, and it becomes a creative collaboration, such that I make a suggestion, I see how they take it, and then pretty soon they're making the suggestions as well. We work together. Such a turning point for this client. He started with me at age 11 before his growth spurt for puberty. Okay. And in the year we've been working together, he has grown 5 inches taller. Oh. Yes, he's really sprouted up, and his voice is deepening. His strength is coming on board. Now, something I haven't mentioned to you that underlies all of my work with these clients is that I'm very informed by the research on fascia, the properties of fascia. How fascia informs the entire whole body web of human movement. And knowing that this young adolescent's motor control is very, very limited on his whole left side, I choose movements in the Pilates studio that will stimulate his whole body web with the kind of elastic recoil that's so important for to get fascia to respond.
Yes.
And with that seems to come more range of motion, more control, more proprioceptive awareness of his left side.
So do you find that as these clients gain more motor control, more sensory motor control, do you find that cognitive comes along with that? Yes.
Absolutely, and that's especially valuable and rewarding to see in the context of this young adolescent, 11 going to 12. His self-esteem, as one could appreciate, was quite low because he's not so confident in space. And with the cognitive difficulties that he has with his schoolwork, he's not so confident in that environment either. When he was the center of attention in the whole Pilates studio, just the two of us together. None of his siblings were there, none of his classmates were there. The whole studio was for him, and every movement sequence was for his success. we could see, and his teachers remarked, and his parents and family remarked, that his self-esteem came up, and he would remark to me something to the effect that, oh, I'm really getting stronger now. Like last week I couldn't do this.
Oh,
this week I
so
can.
Isn't it great when they see that themselves?
Absolutely.
You know, we as Pilates instructors see it and go home and cry about the improvements. But to have a 12-year-old tell you that it's making a big difference.
Yes, yes, and I don't wait to go home.
Oh, you're going to cry
I just cry now. I just cry now.
It
yes.
really is a magical experience.
Yes, it's so important what we can do as Pilates teachers because really movement enhances life. And it's good for self-esteem, it's good for cognitive development. In the case of this young adolescent, it was really good for his executive function, just to become clear about the order of things in time and in space, as well as his movements. You can see that as his growth spurt comes along, he is literally growing longer, stronger, and taller. Much better than the alternative without Pilates, I'd say.
You've mentioned throughout our chat how you've grown as an instructor, just little tidbits here and there, but is there something that you really want to share that, how do you feel you've grown as an instructor?
Yes, this is, here I go again, so close to my heart too, okay. One of the important reasons I'm drawn to this work is that my sister, close in age, 5 years younger than I, never learned to speak or to feed herself. And I have not been able in this lifetime, despite how close we are, to be able to, I would say, to heal her. But what I've had to learn is that it's not my responsibility to heal her, that each person has their life path. I don't understand it, but each person has it. Each client has their life path. It's not my responsibility to heal anybody else. It's ridiculous for me to even think I could try. So what I can do is offer the skills that I can constantly work to acquire to give someone else the opportunity for their nervous system to flourish, for their intelligence to be in motion. So I've had to learn that.
And so when you work with a client that doesn't have these types of special needs, maybe we could call them a little more average, capacities, capabilities. Do you find yourself still pulling on that thought of there's only so much I can do to help you? You have to bring this to the table yourself. Do you find that that's also
Absolutely.
Speaking to that as well?
Yes, of course. It's always a collaboration. We're here together. It's a conscious choice. It's not accidental. We're here together. We're in a collaboration. You have skills, I have skills, and together we'll create something that neither of us knows yet. Yes,
I like
absolutely.
that a lot. Mm-hmm. Neither of us knows yet.
I know yet.
It is really a creative process. It is not step 1 through 30. It is really such a creative process.
If it were, we'd be bored.
We would be bored and there would be one book on the shelf, right? This is step 1 through 30, and this is how you'll gain health.
Yes.
And to be such a gifted creative artist in the Pilates world, I mean, you've brought such a gift to so many people.
Thank you. Something else to mention about how I've grown as an instructor, I realized that that there were some deficits in my knowledge base as I worked with these individuals. And so I sought an education program that seemed to be a little bit outside of my sphere. I've studied physical things for so long, because at home with life, with movement in the body, life in the body, that I sought a program at the Academy of Intuitive Medicine for a certificate program in intuitive medicine. And this enabled me to study the anatomy and the anatomy of the human energy field, to become more conscious of my own intuition, the intuitive skills that I have, to become a more conscientious steward of what I call the integrity of my electromagnetic field. If I was too busy or not taking care of myself or too eager to fix somebody else, then my field would have no integrity and it wouldn't be helpful to them or to me. So in this past couple of years, as I've sought to do more, I guess, work with more complex clients, I've at the same time been educating myself to stay home in my own sphere.
Well, you say staying home in your own sphere, but you're also mirroring and asking them to do what you're doing, so you're also inviting them in.
That's correct. At this, realizing, however, that that our fields must not merge.
Must not merge. So
No,
you're not sending a field to try to change what's happening with them.
Oh no,
Okay.
that would be an error. No, our fields
I think
must
it's a
not
common
merge.
error.
Oh, don't get me
Yes?
started. Don't.
It's a common
Yes,
error.
maybe next year at PMA I'll
That
be
would
ready
be
to present a
wonderful.
workshop.
We would
about-
like you to present a workshop on that, because I think
I'll
that
prepare.
I think Pilates instructors are ready to hear more about. Would you please make my hip not hurt when that client's hip hurts? That happens all the time, right?
Yes, it does,
So,
and
yeah.
that's an indication of mirror neurons going awry.
Mirror neurons going awry.
Mirror
Very
neurons running
interesting.
amok. Someone stop them.
I think you just addressed a question that I had about emotional or psychological attributes. So the work that you've done with the intuitive medicine is really informing that for you and helping
Yes.
you to stay grounded so that you can help people.
Just as you said, yes, and help myself evolve too, because if I'm not embodied and if I don't have my feet on the ground, so to speak, that's right, I'm not much good to anybody.
That is a hard lesson to learn, though. We feel like
Yes, it
we
is.
should go much farther and push much harder initially when we're young students
Yes.
in order to be able to help someone more, and it doesn't do a darn.
I agree with you, yes. If there's a mistake to be made, I'm sure I've made it. I've been working since 1985, and I'm old enough to look back on it.
Have I left anything out that you would really like to tell the audience about your work with polytrauma clients?
I have, since I did study those questions in advance, I just have a couple of points that I'd like to just pull in here, which is that the work with the polytrauma population has really informed and clarified my work with most everybody else. What I find is that the proximal organization for core control of gait applies to everybody, no matter how many limbs you have. And it's been my study of the studies of the research on fascia with Thomas Myers and Robert Schleip and the other experts in this field of fascia research and fascia-oriented training that's informed my movement sequencing. And I realized that everybody, as they gain more control of the thoracic area in all three planes, connect with the pelvis, and then they can connect to whatever their ground forces are.
Okay, so whether they are, yes, amputees or not, the ground force is right there.
Yes.
Yes. Before we let you go, you mentioned you're studying the work of Thomas Myers
Yes.
and Schleip,
Yes.
and you're studying intuitive medicine.
Yes.
I'm curious as to what else is on your nightstand. What else are you reading, and what are you looking forward to learning? You obviously spent a lot of time teaching yourself and learning through clients.
That's true. I think probably those two fields are the
Pretty
two
cool.
the two that I'm. Well, there's a third one. I remember that. Yes, I was so fortunate to grow up in a really musical household, and I grew up playing the piano and singing as a child.
Okay.
And I see the sound therapy, sound healing, as being an extension of the awareness of the resonance of the human energy field. And I would so enjoy having the opportunity to study that, learn that field, to benefit from myself and to also infuse the Pilates environment with really pleasing resonance of sound.
To work with that energy field, the magnetic
Yes,
electric field.
I like that.
That sounds wonderful. I think that the Pilates community will be waiting for that next area of research from you.
I
Sounds
suspect.
wonderful.
Good.
We've been speaking with Elizabeth Larkam. She is a member of the Balanced Body faculty and working with a very special population. Thank you so much for your time.
It's a pleasure.
It's been great.
Thank you too.
See you soon.